History teaches us so much, but is sometimes limited when there are few precedents to look at. So how do you see this from a historical perspective?
Right. I think this is a human and moral question as much as a legal and political one. And all four of those things, of course, are entwined. The question is our democracy mature enough to allow for this, to process this, and to come out the other end in a full, free, and fair election, making a choice that will support and preserve the Constitution, which, for all of its imperfections, has in fact created a more perfect union. It's still a country, still a constitution that people of very, very strongly held opposing views believe in. And so it's really up to us in many ways. It's up to the voters. That's why tomorrow is one of the many reasons tomorrow is so interesting, is that finally voters in a presidential race for the first time since the insurrection will vote for a presidential candidate. And I think the central question for American democracy at this hour is, are you willing to vote for someone with whom you may differ on policy, but in whose fealty to the Constitution you do not doubt? Or do you vote for someone who has demonstrated again and again that he'll put himself above everything else? Pretty straightforward.
Yeah, when you put it like that. And when you say demonstrated, you, as we know, are an acclaimed author, and you use your words carefully. He has demonstrated it, which means that the evidence and the material that we're drawing on is not from criticism or opinion. It is the actual acts and deeds. I almost sound like I'm oversimplifying, but I mean that because there are people who today draw from information. There's always been a partisan press, as long as there was a press, and there's always been conspiracy theories and rumor mongering, sure. But people today sometimes are drawing from information sources where they really do get confused. Indeed, there are people who stormed the Capitol and then later said they were really confused, and part of their issue was the propaganda. I want to play for your reaction something we put together that shows a little bit of the contrast between what Trump is pitching people, which, again, you don't have to watch it, but for those who do, if you watch the Fox Town Hall, it was a kinder, gentler, lying minimization of the actual demonstrated record you referenced. Take a look at this.
I'm not going to have time for retribution. I could stand in the middle of Fifth Avenue and shoot somebody, and I wouldn't lose any voters, okay? And remember this, our ultimate retribution is success.
I'd like to punch him in the face, I'll tell you.
No, I am not going to be a dictator.
We will treat those people from January 6th fairly. We will treat them fairly. And if it requires pardons, we will give them pardons.
So can you say tonight that political violence is never acceptable?
Well, of course that's right.
Knock the crap out of them, would you? Seriously.
John, how much of the question as you posed it this coming year also will turn on what people believe to be true?
Right. And, you know, he went on in that answer and immediately shifted the point to the unfolding wars in the Middle East and in Ukraine, as if that's what political violence is. It is warfare. What I think the host was asking there is about domestic political violence in pursuit of a particular agenda instead of the constitutionally sanctioned arena where we debate our differences peaceably but passionately, and we reach a given solution for a given period of time. And if you disagree, you organize, you campaign, you use the franchise in order to create a different result. And what political violence is about is undermining that, is replacing the rule of law with the rule of the merely strong. And that's as fundamental to American life as anything. Right? If you want to massively dork out, this is, broadly put, Thomas Hobbes versus John Locke. Hobbes wrote about the state of nature, the war of all against all. Locke wrote about social contracts, you know, that we give up certain rights when we enter into a compact with each other in order to protect essential rights. The fact that you and I are sitting here talking about Hobbes and Locke on a Sunday night in 2024 is not a great sign for the health of the body politic. And the only thing I'd say about the question about news sources and all that, I don't think a lot of people are confused. I just personally think they're wrong. And they probably think I'm both, so it's totally fair. But I don't think that. And I've had, and I know you've had conversations. I live in Tennessee, so when I say I have conservative friends, that's redundant, right? They just have a different view. Right. They just have a different view of the things that, and I don't think it comes from a place of malice. I really don't. But I do think it comes from a place of reflexive partisanship. And one of the things I hope we can discuss and maybe come to in the next 9 or 10 months or so is replacing reflexive partisanship, my team, right or wrong, with reflective partisanship. Partisanship's fine. We've been partisan. Jefferson said people have been divided themselves into parties since Rome. That's okay. And in fact, the Constitution wouldn't work without them, as it turns out. But only voting because of a partisan label is, in fact, I believe, undermining of the spirit of the Constitution, the spirit of the Declaration of Independence. And I'm lucky. I don't have particular passions about particular policy issues. I believe that, but I do believe that this experiment needs to go on. And I just worry, and I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think I am, given the evidence of the last, almost 10 years now, that a reelected Trump would not only damage that experiment, but he damn well might end it. And I don't say that casually. I don't say that as a reflexive MSNBC thing. It's just, if you add up the facts, if you look at what we know, it's not an unreasonable worry. So why take the risk?